Hey, I'm Blair Best, and tonight on The Story, we begin inside the Multnomah County boardroom, where people have been showing up in support of the county's Preschool for All program. Now, this comes as county commissioners have been talking about making changes to the program, changes that many parents believe will hurt students in the long run. Portland City councilors now also getting involved, and it's our big story tonight.
We saw real people power over the last couple of weeks when it came to Preschool for All.
Tonight, contention around Multnomah County's Preschool for All program continues. Today, commissioners had their final public meeting over potential changes to how to fund the program. Preschool for All is a free program meant for 3- and 4-year-olds in Multnomah County with the goal of getting all those kids into free preschool by 2030. Now, it was approved by voters 5 years ago and has faced challenges scaling up ever since. The program is paid for by a tax on high-income earners. It's something mothers like Melissa rely on.
When both of my sons were preschool age or younger, our family paid at minimum $40,000 a year or more for childcare. That amount of money is astronomical and not sustainable for most families in Portland. Preschool for All helps all families by giving us the stability that we need to work. Parents should not have to pay $40,000, $50,000 a year just to work and make sure that their children are well cared for.
The program is preparing to serve nearly 4,000 children in more than 200 locations across the county during the upcoming year, and thousands of children are still on the wait list. So the need and the want for this type of program is there. But let's get back to the money, because that's where things have been heating up in recent months. Again, the program is funded by a tax on high-income earners. It's a 1.5% tax on taxable income above $125,000 for single filers and above $200,000 for joint filers. There's an additional 1.5% tax on taxable income above $250,000 for single filers and $400,000 for joint filers. The tax rate is set to increase by 0.8% in January of 2027. Now, since the tax is relatively new, it started in 2021, the thresholds have not been changed. And for several of the past few years, the tax has brought in way more than anticipated. Today, a county spokesperson told us the program has $425 million in dedicated savings. The county certainly wants to have some extra money as they try and expand in the coming years, but that is far more than expected. So Multnomah County Commissioner Julia Brim-Edwards proposed to index the tax to inflation starting next year, which would push those income thresholds for people who have to pay the tax higher. Not everyone is on board.
All indexing does is increase the amount of money that a person has to earn in order to have to pay the Preschool for All tax. Right now, we know that the tax is set up to reach full universality by 2030. If we begin to change the tax structure, we threaten the program in its entirety.
Will it kill Preschool for All like these parents are saying it will?
I don't believe so, and I wouldn't have put it forward if I thought that was the case. Indexing is a very standard mechanism that's in federal tax code, that's in state tax code, local jurisdiction tax code, that basically adjusts items in the tax code for inflation. And essentially indexing would say that you're not going to be pushed into a higher bracket, in this case pushed into paying the Preschool for All tax, only because we've had record levels of inflation over the last 5 years.
All right, today, county commissioners voted to postpone Brim-Edwards' proposal. It was a 3-2 vote. That means things will stay the same for now.
Honestly, I'm disappointed in the vote today. I feel like they're kicking the can down the road when they should just be doing everything they can to make sure this program reaches all families in Multnomah County as fast as possible.
So any of these changes that they're attempting to make right now are going to make it to where 3- and 4-year-olds today, 1- and 2-year-olds today won't get access to Preschool for All.
Now, also against indexing the Preschool for All tax are 5 Portland City councilors. Today, I caught up with one of them, Councilor Mitch Green of District 4, which includes the entire west side of Portland. He and 4 other counselors sent this letter to county commissioners asking them to vote no on changing the tax, among other things.
If you raise the threshold, then you've got an over-reliance on ultra-high incomes that might have capital gains income that fluctuates a lot with the stock market, instead of the sort of wage income that you get at the lower end of the bracket. Preschool for All is, especially a universal implementation of it, is the best way to invest in the long-run economic productivity of our workforce. It lifts families out of poverty, it reduces disparity, and it saves an average household $24,000 per year.
Now, there's another layer to all of this, and that's a push from Governor Tina Kotek to pause the Preschool for All tax altogether. The governor believes the tax targeting high-income earners is pushing people out of Multnomah County. That claim has been questioned several times since she made it back in June. And this week, Councilor Green's office piled on with a study debunking the argument. Councilor Green's study shows that the number of households in Multnomah County that would have to pay the tax grew by nearly 30% from 2021 to 2023, and that the number of filers paying the tax increased by more than 16% in that same period.
I appreciate the governor's concern with the state of the economy in Portland, but I think that she's looking at the wrong part of the economy. And I think this was a voter approved ballot measure, and it's scaling as we planned for it.
Okay, I also talked with Multnomah County Chair Jessica Vega-Peterson today. She and the governor had a bit of a war of strongly worded letters around Preschool for All earlier this summer.
One of the proposals that was coming down from the state was all about, changes that would effectively end the program. Indexing to me is different, and really looking at, a tax threshold.
Do you think indexing to inflation would hurt the Preschool for All program?
It will definitely have an impact, right? It is going to change the amount of revenue that's coming in, and I think we need to have a really clear understanding of what those impacts would be before we take that step.
Okay, so what happens now? Again, commissioners voted today to give this more time before they make a final decision. The Preschool for All program has its own technical advisory group, or TAG. It's a group of local economists and policy experts that analyze the program and present recommendations to the commissioners. So now it's in their hands. No date has been set for when they have to present new recommendations. However, not all commissioners are happy with this TAG group in the first place.
That I have lost total faith in our TAG and their work, and therefore I see the proposed path forward as something that would not provide me information that would change my position. I state that for a couple of reasons. One is I believe that the economic consultant that we hired is compromised for having taken business from another entity that has come out with a position to eliminate the Preschool for All program. I fundamentally can't trust a single thing that organization would give to us. Second, and there is an employee from that same company who is a voting member of the TAG, which seems unbelievable to me. Second, what they have been tasked to do is not what the measure said that the TAG is supposed to do. The language in the measure, and now in our code, says that the purpose of the TAG was to make sure that we have an adequate, and provide recommendations to the board that we have an adequate funding stream to fully fund Preschool for All. That is not what this conversation is.
And on that same thread, it's worth noting that the Preschool for All director stepped down just a few weeks ago after reporting tied her to wasteful spending on state tax dollars unrelated to Preschool for All. And a recent Multnomah County audit found the program overall has been slow to meet goals and that more transparency is needed. So clearly, it's not all rainbows and sunshine for Preschool for All, but we'll be watching how this all plays out. But let's hear from you. Should those income thresholds for the tax be indexed to inflation and pushed higher, or should things stay as they are now? Email us the story at kgw.com or call and leave us a voicemail, 503-226-5090.
There is a plague in this country of headlight brightness. It is shockingly bright. If you look back to halogen light bulbs, you're reaching somewhere around 700 to 1200 lumens. New LED technology, these sons of get to like 12,000 lumens.
Okay, strong words there from Washington Congresswoman Marie Gluesenkamp-Perez as she takes the battle against bright headlights to the halls of the U.S. Capitol. Now, maybe you've noticed it when you're on the road, too. Headlights have gotten significantly brighter over the past few decades as lighting technology changes. Gluesenkamp-Perez brought it up last month in the House Appropriations Committee as an amendment to the Transportation, Housing, and Urban Development Bill. She wants the U.S. Secretary of Transportation to study the impact of headlight brightness and set a maximum brightness standard.
It is not a binary choice between walking around in the dark and the fire of 1,000 suns. And the standards on this have not been reformed since before I was born.
As Representative Gluesenkamp-Perez mentioned, old-school halogen bulbs only emitted about 700 to 1,200 lumens, which is a way to measure light output. But in the last 20 years, car manufacturers have started using LED lights, which can put out up to 3,000 lumens and sometimes much higher. LED bulbs also have a white or a blue color temperature, which appears brighter than the yellow tone used in halogen bulbs. Newer headlights are designed to light up more of the road to the front and sides of the car. Good for drivers, but sometimes difficult for people around the car.
It is a real problem. A third of Americans have nystigmatism. This is a serious risk to safety, driving, to pedestrians in particular, where you're not able to see, your eyes can't dilate quickly enough to respond to a challenge in the road or to anything. If you're on curves, if you're on roads, I am sure you have all seen this.
Okay, but let's be real. With everything going on in the country, is headlight brightness really the battle for Congress to be fighting? Gluesenkamp-Perez says it is. She says it's a chance to take bipartisan action and to show America that Congress still cares about everyday issues.
This is an opportunity to demonstrate that politics is relevant and useful to the lived experience of ordinary Americans. That this is not just something for a PhD in navel gazing, but it's a lived experience. We are out there driving the same cars, the same experiences. We're seeing the same things. This is something that, until we are demonstrating that this body is living the same reality, that we are hearing and responding.
Well, that idea resonated with other members of Congress, including Republican Congressman Steve Womack from Arkansas.
We've all seen it, and it can cause some safety problems. And frankly, I don't think it's unreasonable for us to ask the Department of Transportation to shed a little light on this subject for us.
Congressional humor, ladies and gentlemen. The voice vote on the amendment to the bill was unanimous in favor, not something that happens in Congress every day. But the bill itself still has several more steps and opportunities to be changed before it heads to the president. In the meantime, we wanted to hear from some experts, so we got in touch with a Portland eye doctor. She says it's one of the top complaints that she hears from her patients.
When we look at bright lights, especially in the dark adapted environment, so we've adapted to darkness naturally when we're driving. And then if you look at the really bright headlight, it can cause bleaching of photoreceptors. And that basically causes this temporary blindness effect. And that's sort of, it's a normal phenomena that happens in everyone, but it can be longer recovery from that in certain populations, like in our older population, especially if they have like eye conditions like macular degeneration, that recovery could be so much slower. So they may not be able to readjust to, their road, to their lane, because they were just so blinded by that light.
She says the effect of bright headlights should be kept in mind when it comes to developing regulations around them, and says that if you're noticing a lot of discomfort with headlights, talk to your eye doctor. They can see if there's something going on with your eyes that you weren't aware of and recommend treatment or products that may help. So what do you think? Are headlights too bright? Are there bigger problems for Congress to worry about? Send us an email at thestory@kgw.com or call and leave us a voicemail, 503-226-5090. From one side of the Columbia River to the other, Representative Cliff Bentz, Oregon's only Republican member of Congress, was in the Dalles yesterday, defending the so-called Big Beautiful Bill and federal spending package. He was the only federal lawmaker from Oregon to vote yes. We brought you the first part of this story yesterday, looking at that issue. But Evan Watson joins me now. Evan, you got a chance to sit down with Representative Bentz, talking about some other issues, including federal funding for the I-5 bridge. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, as we know, there have been some federal cuts to other transportation projects, even here in our area, including the Rose Quarter project that was in the works there. But in terms of the I-5 bridge replacement, Representative Bentz tells me that he's relatively sure President Trump still supports that, and he at least supports it and will do whatever he can to get that through.
Now, something else we've been following this week is Trump's talks of banning vote by mail, something that we know Oregon and Washington both use. Did he have anything to say about that?
He got a question on that. Someone was saying, hey, where do you stand? What does this look like? And as part of his answer, there was a little visual exercise, if you will, of what that looked like. So here, take a look at this.
If my constituents say they no longer trust vote by mail, we better do something different, because we can't have a system where people don't trust us. And so what I'll be doing is, in this group, I'm going to say, right, would everybody that wants to keep voting by mail raise their hand, please? Okay, and then everybody that wants to shift to having the old days where we all went down and voted, raise your hand. Okay, well, this group, I think I see which way you're leaning. It's, it reminds me of some other situations, but I would just say I'll be asking those questions, because if people don't believe, that's a problem. If people still believe, well, then kind of hard to see why we would change.
Okay, so it appears that vote by mail is not only popular just in the metro area based on that small sample.
Sure, small sample size. I also want to highlight one other moment where Representative Bentz kind of gave us a peek inside what it looks like to get business done, to do politics in D.C., in our nation's capital.
And I feel that our Congress has, and I'll just say it, sort of bent a knee to Donald Trump, and we're supposed to be co-equal branches of government. And I want to see that carried through, and it seems to be being lost.
That's how it truly works. Now, does that mean that we're all giving in to Trump? No, but it does mean that if you choose to disagree, then someone's going to call you in, and some sort of an arrangement is going to ultimately be made. Now, that's just the way it is. And I would like to say it was otherwise, but you've got to move this thing forward, and it requires that kind of effort.
Okay, well, glad we got a chance to hear from him.
Sure.
Evan Watson, thanks so much.
You got it.
Well, coming up next on The Story, it is set to be a historically hot hood-to-coast relay this year. Teams start the trek from Timberline to Seaside in just a few hours. And we'll tell you about one team's major milestone and how the man who inspired them several decades ago is now along for the journey. That's next, when The Story returns. Well, starting in just a few hours, tomorrow morning, thousands of runners will begin the 43rd annual Hood to Coast, otherwise known as the mother of all relays and the most popular and largest relay in the world. And this year could be the hottest Hood to Coast ever, with triple-digit temps. There's expected to be some 19,000 runners from all 50 states and 40 countries. Now, some teams come back year after year to participate. One team in particular will celebrate a special milestone when they cross the finish line this weekend. Alma McCarty has the story.
The thing about Hood to Coast, it started as a road race and it became a Northwest culture.
To conquer nearly 200 miles from Mount Hood to Seaside, endurance is a must.
There's really nothing like it. They call it the mother of all relays. That's kind of a great tagline.
But to do it with the same core group of friends for 4 decades requires a different level of dedication. Meet the dirty half dozen plus 6.
And I think at some point we figured, we wouldn't be able to get everybody or enough people back together. But one of the things we always say is we're getting done with the race and packing up or having breakfast the next day. Now, who's in for next year? And every year around the table, everybody's, yeah, I'm in.
It's a tradition that began at Sunset High School.
A lot of it was just our coach, Dave Robbins. He was fantastic. So he was good about making sure everybody was, functioning as a team.
I remember one of the things I didn't want them to do was run Hood to Coast at the end of August because we had practice and we had meets on the 1st of September.
Our parents were a little reluctant, as you can imagine, to let a bunch of 15-year-olds and 14, 15-year-olds go run from Mount Hood down to the coast.
But the dirty half dozen did it anyway, and that first run in 1986 has yet to stop.
We know it's special. There's not a lot of people that get that group that as large as this that really get to hang out and still stick together for as long as we have been.
The team racking up more than 7,500 miles over the years.
Scott Thompson, you're finishing your 100th Hood to Coast leg.
With the original members now hitting major milestones.
100 legs in your 100th leg. Go ET.
All this with an average pace of 6 minutes and 36 seconds per mile.
Last year, we did not run 6:30, and guess who is not running 6:36 this year? This guy, yeah. However, winning, you redefine winning, and winning is finishing your legs, not getting hurt.
Perhaps the greatest win, conquering their 40th Hood to Coast alongside the man who brought them together and inspired it all.
Okay, I'm not trying to blow sunshine, but having this guy on our team who is a huge influence, not just on running, but on life. I mean, you look at our lives, and life is tough. Life happens, and it's good and it's not good, but you kind of go through it. He's never been on our team before. We've always raced against him. We've cursed him. He's cursed us. But this time, he's going to be part of the dirty half dozen plus 6.
Dave joining Eric, John, Travis, Kirk, Todd, Steve, Tom, Scott, John, Jason, and Bill from Timberline Lodge to a photo finish at the beach.
Getting to the end as a team, still liking each other, 12 people, 2 vans, 1 beer garden. I mean, that's panacea.
I'm so impressed that he's embraced the philosophy of running after all these years. He finally gets it. He finally gets it.
Yeah, nice job! Alma McCarty, KGW News.
Well, that is the end of our show, folks. Thanks so much for watching. The good stuff is coming your way next. And don't forget, everyone has a story to tell. If you ever miss an episode of The Story at 6:30, we re-air it at 8:30 and 10:30 on our TV app, KGW+, which you can download for free right now on Roku, Apple TV, and Fire TV. In the meantime, have a great Thursday night. Get ready for those hot temps tomorrow. I'll see you right back here tomorrow night at 6:30.